Terrorists, 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 terrorists.
I'm scared. I'm really scared of the terrorists. What are we going to do? You know what? I'm willing to give up all of my civil liberties if my government will just protect me. Please listen to all of my phone calls. Don't worry about any of my Bill of Rights because I'm so scared.
As we sifted through the rubble in the weeks that followed 9/11, the country was terrified that another attack could occur at any moment from any quarter. The Bush administration quickly began to push through sweeping policy changes.
Before anyone had a chance to understand what went wrong, he proposed fixes that went far beyond fighting terrorism.
Parallels the administration's argument in support of warrantless electronic eavesdropping on American citizens' private phone conversations, despite the explicit strictures of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, which was designed by Congress to impose at least a modest judicial check on potential presidential use of this very power.
And the law of the land says, get a warrant. The actions of the administration have ignored the law of the land in that regard. So it's not a discussion in the abstract. It's not hypothetical. There are laws on the books against what the administration is doing.
When the president says, I would never authorize something that's unlawful, it has a lot of people chuckling because most experts believe the domestic surveillance program, which was disclosed in December, is unlawful and indeed is a federal crime.
There are such things as roving wiretaps. Now, by the way, anytime you hear the United States government talking about wiretap, a wiretap requires a court order. Nothing has changed, by the way. When we're talking about chasing down terrorists, we're talking about getting a court order before we do so. It's important for our fellow citizens to understand, when you think Patriot Act, constitutional guarantees are in place when it comes to doing what is necessary to protect our homeland because we value the Constitution.
A secret program to eavesdrop on people in the U.S. without a court order is set to expire, and the president and his men do not want that to happen. What they want and don't have is a certification from the Attorney General that the program is legal. In fact, Ashcroft had already concluded it wasn't.
The average person doesn't have a concept of the massive capability that is available to the National Security Agency. Forget about the idea of the guy with the earphones on listening to something. That's not what happens. The calls are being sucked up by the millions, and not just the calls, you're engaged in this data mining.
Cell phone users beware, Big Brother may be listening. The Federal Bureau of Investigation can now hear everything you say, even when the cell phone is turned off. I know it sounds kind of out there, but using your phone's tracking device, authorities can now activate the microphone inside the dreaded thing, allowing them to eavesdrop on you and your conversation.
In relation to telephone and postal communication are revoked.
In a very broad terms, it gave the president the ability to declare that a national emergency existed, and then assumed that the president could take up the following powers, which is all national essential functions for continuity of the government, including directing all federal, state, local, territorial, and tribal governments, as well as private sector organizations, which were going to continue functioning under the president's directives in the event of a national emergency. And Brian, I wrote about it because I think this is the most broad definition of emergency powers I've ever seen a president award to themselves, and it really is virtually dictatorial powers, the ability to take over and manage all levels of government, including private sector organizations.
The Patriot Act, Homeland Security, the Military Tribunals Act, and other legislations are all completely and entirely designed to destroy your civil liberties and limit your ability to fight back against what is coming. Currently in the United States, unannounced to most brainwashed Americans, your home can be searched without a warrant, without you being home. You can in turn be arrested with no charges revealed to you, detained indefinitely with no access to a lawyer, and legally tortured, all under the suspicion that you might be a terrorist.
This is a president who believes that he can define what the law is or ignore it. He's also president that created his own judicial system just on the other side of the border, and he says that he can try people by his own rules and execute them. Well, that combines the legislative, judicial, and executive powers of this government in one person.
If this were a dictatorship, it'd be a heck of a lot easier. Just so long as I'm the dictator.
God, he's so funny. In order for them to establish the coming global political system, they must do away with our Constitution and our God-given Bill of Rights. USA Today, presidential power grab threatens rule of law. New York Times, Bush signs landmark executive order increasing power over federal agencies. Wired, Bush power grab scorecard. San Francisco Chronicle, California leadership stop the Bush administration's power grab. Bush presidential papers power grab. I know, I'm just a conspiracy nut. None of this stuff is real. You know, I need to just go on and watch American Idol and watch football and not worry about these things. You know, they make you think, you know. God, it's hard.